It's not always the most naturally talented or the most disciplined players that improve the fastest. Oftentimes, it just comes down to dumb luck. Did you manage to stumble onto the right path at the right time in your playing? And I think there's this big misconception out there that if you just engineer the perfect practice plan, optimize every little detail, that you'll guarantee the fastest progress. But we know it's not that simple. You see, there are two different paths you can find yourself on when learning guitar. The first one is what I just mentioned, and anyone can just construct it. You treat learning guitar like it's a job, with structured objectives, deliverables, working hours, and measured KPIs. The problem is that learning guitar just becomes work, and it takes from you. It doesn't inspire you, energize you, or recharge your battery. And that means it will always be the first thing to go when you feel tired or overwhelmed, too busy, or you get distracted by the next thing. But there is another path, which, as I mentioned earlier, people usually stumble onto by accident. And it all starts with a spark. Usually an aha moment or big win that just lights this fire inside of you. All of a sudden, you're staying up until 2 a.m. playing. You're thinking about the guitar while you lie in bed. You pull out your phone and instead of doom scrolling on Instagram, you're looking at pedals on Reverb. You stop caring about turning your practice into the ultimate full body workout program, and instead, you're just having fun. You're not in it so you can impress anyone or put it on your dating profile. Playing becomes something that fills you with inspiration and energy. This passion will take your playing to the moon. And if you talk to any player that seemed to speedrun the beginner stage, they'll all tell you a story involving something just like this. So let me share a few things that really lit that fire for me, and maybe there'll be a spark for you as well. The first thing was accidentally discovering how to improvise while listening to John Mayer. Now, I was in high school when Continuum came out, and that album really kind of took the guitar world by storm. I was sitting in my room one night listening to Slow Dancing in a Burning Room, and I had my guitar in my hands, and I was just kind of noodling around, no idea what I was doing. And all of a sudden, I stumbled on some notes that sounded pretty familiar. I said, oh, that sounds a lot like the melody. So every time it would come around, I would play. And then there were these big gaps in between. So I was like, well, what if I just randomly play some of those notes in a different order? And then it would come back around. And I went, is this how people come up with solos? Am I improvising right now? I had no idea. Then I realized that what I was playing there was actually just a piece of the major scale. So then I said, oh, well, what if I start playing notes just from that scale? So I would play the little melody, and then I would grab some other notes. And I felt like something in my brain just completely shifted. Ever since that moment, I've been obsessed with improvisation. So it started there, but then I realized, oh, I can actually, right on top of that, stack a pentatonic scale. So I had this, and I learned I could go. So now I had my little lick, and everything else and from then on, day after day, this is all I was doing. Now, what this eventually led to me realizing was that this wasn't just how to improvise over Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. Just about every single other song out there can be soloed over with just one simple scale shape. I can take that basic major scale that I just played, or I can take the basic pentatonic or the combination of both, whatever, and I can literally position it based on the key of whatever song I want to play over. And really, with the exception of just a few genres, it's going to sound really good over just about anything. All I would do is look up the key and position accordingly. And doing that is really, really simple. If I go back to that pentatonic scale I just showed you, right? Whichever note my pinky is on the low E string, it's the same for the high E, but we'll use the low E. That is the major key that I'm positioned in. So in this case, that is an E note. That means that this scale right here and that other scale built in, they all work for the key of E major. Whatever note this one is on, that is my relative minor key. That means that this exact same position also works for C sharp minor. So if I look up a song and it's in the key of A major, I would just move this so that my pinky lands on an A note, and now I'm in the key of A major. And I could play around with and improvise with this scale, and it would work perfectly. It also would work for the key of F sharp minor. If the song was in the key of B minor, I would look for a B note, put that right there on the 7th fret. And because it's minor, I use my pointer finger, and all of those notes would work, and that scale would work perfectly. And this would also work for whatever note this was, which is a D. That means D major. It's that simple. You look up the key of the song, you position your scale, and you start having fun. The last thing that really did make a difference for me was realizing that the positions are just repetition. So when I first learned the pentatonic scale, I learned it in that first position, the scale we were just talking about, right? Well, then all of a sudden I found out there are 4 more positions of the pentatonic scale, and I thought, oh my goodness, how do I know when I'm supposed to use position 1 or position 4 or 2 or 3 or whatever? Well, the truth is that they are all the exact same scales with the exact same notes. So if I went to my pentatonic scale in the key of C major or A minor, all these notes in this scale are the exact same in the other positions. So if I moved up to position 2, you can see the notes themselves, the pattern's different, right? But the notes themselves are the exact same. Now it extends a little bit higher. It ends on a different note. It starts on a different note, but the notes themselves are the same. So that means you have access to all the same notes if you just stick to one position. Now, there is value to moving out into the other positions because it allows you to do things more horizontally, to kind of access notes in a little bit of a different way. But since the notes themselves are the same, it means that you really can do a lot with just one position. And this is true for all the different types of scales as well. Your major and minor scales, all the positions are just the same notes. All of your modal scales, same thing. All the positions are just the same notes. All I'm saying is that you're not missing out on that much if you're not getting right into those other positions right away. Take your time. Focus on mastering position 1 and then slowly move outward into the other positions as you're comfortable. I want to leave you with a little bit of a parting gift. At the top of the description below this video, you'll find a link to download my free fretboard navigation guidebook. It breaks down all of the most important fretboard systems, and I think you're going to find it really helpful. I'll also put that link in a pinned comment if that's easier for you to find. From here, I'd recommend you check out my lesson on building the perfect beginner practice routine. You'll be able to click on that video up in the middle of your screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.